All right, I know it's been a long time, everybody, but welcome back to the LVPPA podcast. I am the president of the police union, Steve Grammas. We have a great guest today. He's been on before. He hasn't been in the podcast room where we have the setup here. Before it was at the bar when he was running for sheriff. And now we've got him here today. My sheriff, your sheriff, Kevin McMahill.
Hi, Steve. Hi, everybody. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for a pretty cool new room, new logo. Looks pretty good.
It's really helped us get to that 7 million follower mark. I had someone laughing in the background. I don't know what the laughter in the background is. It seems it's our executive producer not buying the 7 million number. Maybe it's 6.9. I don't know.
It's close.
Yeah, it's very close. We usually have the rolling ticker, but she doesn't have it in here now because she doesn't like me pointing it out.
I think we'll put it over the top today.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. No doubt. I want to do a live one. I told you that. I want to do one where like we tell people we're doing it live and then let people call in or do some crazy stuff like that and filter the calls, of course, because I'm sure you get some nut jobs out there wanting to do some crazy stuff on the air. But all right, man. No, listen, appreciate you coming on. You and I have known each other a long time.
Yeah.
Always been a good dude. Listen, I'll say that. I always say that. I don't say that about a lot of people. But Kevin, you really are a good man. You're doing a lot of good things for our cops. You're doing a lot of good things for our department and the community. And so that's kind of what some of the things we want to talk about. You know, year and a half in, are you where you wanted to be in the first year and a half? Are there some things you want to be doing different? Some markers you haven't hit? You know, what has this year and a half been like for you?
Yeah. Well, again, it's an interesting thing when you say that to me because, the other side of that, Steve, is that, as you well know, being the leader of this union, this association, that it's just a great honor, right? To be at the leadership seat of all of the men and women that go out there every single day and do this work. And you know as well as I do, and you're out on most of these major incidents that we have, is our men and women go out there and do amazing things literally every day. And the vast majority of them we don't even know about. And so it's such a great honor to be the sheriff. And I know from talking to you as well, being in charge of this association and fighting for the rights of the men and women of our organization, um, it's just a fantastic thing. So the honor of being the sheriff is greater than I ever thought. I would I would say you know me pretty well, and the fact that I'm not a very patient person, I don't think I've accomplished the things that I would like to accomplish yet. However, I got to tell you that when you look back over this last year and a half almost now, um, what we have accomplished together as a law enforcement organization is literally second to none. And I always talk to people about this. Just think of December alone. We started off with homicide with 5 homeless individuals that was a true whodunit, and our exceptional homicide folks and intel folks and everybody came together to put some people behind bars for that case, which almost any other jurisdiction, that case would be unsolved for certain. We have the murder of 3 professors at UNLV. We have F1. We have that tiny little event that we host every year called New Year's Eve. And then the Super Bowl, which is an unprecedented event for us. And obviously that's not December, but the end of the year.
Sure.
And the challenges of planning and staffing and executing those types of events. I just couldn't be more proud of our men and women than I have always been that way, all the way up through being under sheriff, but now to watch them in action and just guide them just a little bit one way or the other and watch what they accomplish it leaves me sometimes quite frankly awestruck at how good they really are and how much they care. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are going on though, and I'm sure we'll get into some of this stuff, but the Wellness Bureau is doing amazing things for our folks, and people are starting to really understand that better, and realize that this job that we do, we're exposed to things that we shouldn't have to be exposed to. Hell, just the other day we had that homicide down at Third and Charleston where a man beat a man's head off the ground and then ate his eyeball and his ear when our heroes came up there and stopped his actions. And just to see that, and then the same day, a 12-year-old boy had to see his mom killed by his father, and his father kill himself. And the little boy comes out to our heroes in uniform, covered in blood. And so when anybody out there thinks for any time whatsoever that the trauma that our men and women are exposed to, the impact it has on their heart, mind, body, and soul. If they don't believe it, they can screw off because we're going to take care of these cops in ways that we never have because they deserve it.
I think that you probably agree with me. I mean, you've been around a long time. I think that, we went through that period after George Floyd where there was a portion of the political arm of our country that was bad mouthing police. They need to be reformed. They need to be changed, blah, blah, blah. And now, as we creep into this election year, we're seeing those same people saying, "Oh, it's not our police. We need to overfund. We need to refund our cops." I see it, and you're in a good political spot, but I see it as absolutely disingenuous. All they're doing is trying to get votes and trying to get people to not hate them. And so, to all you folks out there that would talk crap about the police, I still know who you are. I still know who you are. Senate Majority Leaders. I know who you are when you come in here for our endorsements. I know what you're about. But it is our cops felt that though, right? I mean, you know that when we were going through the protests, and you and I were out there during those protests, talking near the Trump Tower and things like that. That it when people badmouth the good guys and gals, hurts them. They're like, I'm out there just trying to help, and you're badmouthing me. And as it shifts in that political landscape, and they stop doing that, that helps our cops mentally and emotionally a lot more because now they don't have to deal with that perception on the car stop that maybe this person hates me just because of what some politician said.
Yeah, I tell people a lot of times that simple thank you to a cop goes so much further than they can ever imagine. Um, but the other side of that too, Steve, is I would just say to you a lot, at least from my perspective, is I have always approached this that I don't buy too much one way or the other. All that negativity around law enforcement, it was all bullshit, quite frankly, because as I've said to you before, is that the reality is that when you look at criminal justice reform, the only thing in the criminal justice system that's ever undergone any reform is the police side.
Sure.
Prosecutors, judges, public defenders, none of them have ever reformed. That's why our system is so screwed up. And the police are the ones that get the blame for everything. And, today is a really good example of this. We see many of the same protesters that are financed by the same people that were protesting back in 2020 that are setting up, 200 of the same tents overnight on our universities and then setting about to have chaos and destruction, and then at the last minute they want the cops to come in and save them again. And we do what we always do in jurisdictions all around this country, to include here, is they went in and took care of business the way they're supposed to. But um, what I know about law enforcement, I know about the men and women of our organization in particular, is that they give a damn. They want to make a difference. They come to work. They're not paid well enough. They're not compensated well enough in a salary and benefit package, but they show up every single time in the face of danger, and they go to work. And nobody can take that away from them. I don't care which side of that argument that you're on. They show up every time for this community.
It is an interesting dynamic when people want to badmouth a police officer, but then when they call us, we don't respond with animosity. We don't respond with "I don't care." We go and we still do our jobs, even in the face of people that have spit at us and cursed at us and called us derogatory names. They still show up and say, "Hey, you're someone that needs help, and I don't care what you've done in the past. I'm still here to help." And that's an interesting because there's not a lot of professions that will continue to do that. I mean, we even heard it, during those times when people were saying, "Well, hey, if you don't like the cops, don't call them. Don't bring them into your neighborhood." And that's not
Right.
the right thing because just because one loudmouth doesn't like us doesn't mean the neighborhood dislikes us. I've had this conversation about the historic West Side, and people say, "Oh, people in the West Side don't like the police." I said, "Go out and talk to the people. They love the police.
They do.
Those folks are fabric of the community. They've been there for 30, 40, 50 years. They're not going anywhere. They shouldn't have to leave because some scumbag moves in and sells dope or some gangs are in their neighborhood. It's not their fault.
It
They
sure
want a
isn't.
clean neighborhood just like we want a clean neighborhood."
Yeah.
And so, you try and we in law enforcement recognize that. We don't say this whole area of town is bad. They're all great people. We just got some pockets to deal with. And we've got bad people in rich neighborhoods too, right?
Sure.
The
You bet.
Ridges, Spanish Trails, they're not all pinnacles of society that are in there. Just because they got money doesn't mean anything. So it's always funny that with our profession, as much as people may have badmouthed us, we still go and we still service them exactly how we're supposed to.
You know what I like about all that though is that when you say that, there's something that comes to mind every single time, is every time. It doesn't matter, right? You think that there could be a time that one of these cops would say, you know what, you're a cop hater, you don't get my services. I've never heard that,
Yeah.
not one time. Every single time that we're called upon, we show up, and that's a true testament to the men and women of this organization.
No doubt, no doubt. So looking at your year and a half, so you were under sheriff for how long?
7 years, just shy of.
Do you have a new appreciation for 100 spot as opposed to when you were 101, maybe looking at Joe going, man, what's he doing? And now you're in that spot where Joe was, and you're like, "Ah, okay, I guess I get what he was doing."
What's really interesting about that is that I had exposure to sheriffs all the way back to Bill Young,
Sure.
and even Jerry Keller. I mean, I certainly it was the opposite end of some of those decisions that were made, but um, and I thought being as close as I was with Joe,
Mhm.
sitting right next door, working day to day with him for so long, that I knew this job, and I could tell you I was only about maybe half right, um, because Joe had the Joe gave me the day-to-day operational responsibility for Metro, and we did a lot of great things. Boy, that's only one part of the job, and it's such a different perspective when you get in there. And I'm not a politician per se. I'm
That's what politicians say,
Yeah,
just so we're very clear.
but I
I'm
am
not.
elected, right? And I did have to run for office, but I was a cop before,
Sure.
right? And I like to fancy myself as a cop still, but I did not realize the level of politics that you have to understand. And politics is not an easy business. It really isn't, particularly in our profession. We have a lot of things that sometimes, we're trying to accomplish, and there are a number of forces that are lined up against what we're trying to accomplish, and you have to be a lot more astute at the political side of this as the sheriff than you probably ever wanted to give yourself credit for. I think is probably one of the most important pieces. And then the other part, I will tell you that because I like to think I did a lot in the community as the undersheriff, but the demand of your time, um, everybody wants you somewhere, every night and weekend. And I figured, at least in this first year, that there was no room for me to say no. And I sure made a mistake doing that. I just extended myself, and you've got to pick and choose because you can't be everywhere. And most importantly, that's the other reason that you have an administrative staff and executive staff is that they need to go out and get exposure to all of the different people and community groups that we have. It's just there's a big fight there because the people want you as the sheriff.
Sure. And that's kind of a good segue. When you look at being the sheriff and everybody wanting your attention and wanting you at this event and wanting you at that event. You still are a husband, you're still a father, you're now a grandfather, right?
Yeah.
Although you don't look old enough to be a grandfather. And so, how do you balance that dynamic of the public wanting you, but your family also wanting you? Your wife is retired deputy chief. So before she had things to do, and now it's kind of okay, I got a little more time, Kevin. Where you at? And same with the grandchild and your own kids. Your
Yeah.
son's on the job, and so how do you really now? 'Cause like you said, first year maybe I wasn't able to balance properly. And I tell you, I'm a victim of that myself. I still work on how to balance that properly to make sure that the people that love and care for you and will be with you when you're 90 years old are just as important today as they were before you took a certain spot. And so how do you make that balance on the sheriff and the dad, the husband?
Well, listen, one thing I'll tell you about this is I want to publicly thank you. I did have a little blood pressure issue where I let something get to me not too long ago. And I realized that, boy, I sure need to take care of myself because I preach it, right? I preach to my people that the people of this organization come first, that we're all human beings and that we have to learn how to treat each other, but we also have to focus on ourselves because if we can't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of our community. Um, and I didn't do a very good job of that, honestly, the first year. I overextended myself a lot, and I have 3 grandchildren, 5 children, and of course, my wife is a retired deputy chief, as you mentioned, and so as an example, my twins are graduating high school this year in a few short days, and I'm going to go out to their soccer tournament and make sure that I get to spend a few more moments before they head off to college, and then I'll have out of the 5 one left at home, and so um, you have to constantly remind yourself of what's precious because what I found out when I did leave Metro as the under sheriff is that the organization is going to continue the next day, regardless of who you are and what position that you have. And so you can't let it consume you. You can spend as much time as you possibly can to try to do as good as you can while you have the title and the authority to do it. But at the same time, if you don't lead by example in all of these things, which first and foremost is taking care of yourself. And I remember when you and I had a conversation about that, and you were kind enough to remind me that you need to take some time for yourself as well. And so I don't know that you're always going to get that from all the people that you work with. Sometimes people like to think that we're always adversarial, and certainly while we have our disagreements, the truth is that we all have the same thing in mind as a goal. And so I commend you for that, and I heard you, and I definitely took that time to take a breather.
Well, listen, it's, going back to, how long we've known each other, worked together. Listen, outside of police work, you're a good man. And
Likewise.
I can tell you for the year and a half, it is not that I dislike my time with Joe. I had, I had an absolute toward the end of his sheriff's position, a profound respect for Joe Lombardo. Really love the job he's doing as our governor as well. But in the year and a half, I can't think of a negative time you and I have had an interaction. I can't say that for people under you, but I can say that with you. And I can also say that no matter what you're doing, and this is for my members, it doesn't matter what you're doing. I've talked to you when you were in Colorado. I've talked to you when you were in different cities, maybe even different countries. You always pick up the phone for me, and to me, that's important because if it's me calling you, it's pretty important, and to know that you always pick up that phone and you always do. There's never been a time that Kevin McMahill hasn't answered my phone call, and I appreciate that because the not that Joe didn't do that. It's a good reassuring feeling that the head of our agency, if I give him a shout, doesn't matter what he's doing, he still picks up the phone. And so, as you and I both know, we're never far away from work when that phone is
Yeah.
attached to us until the day we do retire officially. But no, that's good to hear. That's good
Well,
to hear.
Steve, it's also a mutual respect because you do the exact same thing for me, right? And look, we have a lot of things that we have to work out along the way, and you know, you and I have always had the approach that your members are mine, also,
No doubt.
right? And so we have a common interest. Number one is to make this place as good as we possibly can, and I know when you pick up the phone, it's because you need to resolve a particular issue most of the time, and the same way goes back for me as I ask you the question. Sometimes we resolve it right then and there, and other times we got to work through it. But
Sure.
at least there's that mutual respect to get that done, and so I'm as much appreciative as you are.
Now, many people may not know though that when I do call you, you have a rule on what I'm supposed to address you as, and he makes sure that I FaceTime because he wants to see that I'm on a knee and then I'm saying, Mr. Sheriff,
Oh,
sometimes Your
please.
Highness. And then the conversation, I'll ask for permission to stand. He'll allow me to stand. Then we'll jump off the FaceTime into a regular call. And then,
This is his attempt at comedy. So just know this is his attempt. It's not going over real well.
uh, all right. So looking at the department, one of the big things we get from our folks all the time is the pants. I will tell you candidly, you probably don't get this from a lot of people. They hate the pant, the look. They love the comfort of the pant. They do not like the look of the pant. Is What's the feeling you have on the pant? What are you thinking?
So let me just completely clear something up. When I was on the campaign trail, as you well know, I promised I was going to get some new pants because we'd been in the same pair of pants for as long as I could remember, certainly. And what an eye-opening experience it is to have to go through this entire bid process and the supply chain issues and COVID and all that garbage. And I ended up with a pair of pants that, from all the samples I looked at, I tried these pants on. I personally wore them for a couple of days, and I really liked them. What I got, I think, is something completely different.
Really?
Yeah,
That's interesting.
I'm absolutely embarrassed, quite
It's
frankly.
funny you say that because are you aware there's even different shades of the
I
pant?
am absolutely aware of that. In fact, we just had a manufacturer meeting with the manufacturer to demand some change, or I was going to terminate contract. And so I will tell you that we are terminating that contract. Um, the challenge I have obviously is that to outfit a very
Sure.
large organization, it costs a lot of money. But the truth is, let me just finish on the pants. Is the comfort of them is, I don't think, the question.
No.
It's they don't wear very good. The sizes are completely wrong. They told me that if you wear a 34-34, normally as an example, you could walk into any store here in Las Vegas and buy your size of pants and they're going to fit you. But for whatever reason, from this particular manufacturer, I couldn't wear 34-34. So I don't know what that is, and the length on them was always screwed up. And unfortunately, I had our organization looking like crap in these pants. And I one thing I love about Metro is people are not shy to tell you about these things. So I have heard about it. And in fact, during this meeting with the manufacturer, I had about 7 officers
Nice.
show up to show this is what I look like in these pants, and this is what the size is, and here's the color variations, and all kinds of excuses and all of those things. And so bottom line is we are going to move away from that pant manufacturer, and we are already in discussions as to how I'm going to get the next pair of pants. I will tell you that obviously I still have there's a certain process I have
Sure.
to go through. Um, I think one of the big keys to me was I still wanted to be wash and wear.
Yeah.
That's another thing I heard from the officers that are wearing them, that ability to wash them at home was really important. So in all likelihood, what's going to happen is there's a pair of pants that will still have a very professional look to them, that have a crease, but have a slight amount of wool in them, to keep that very, very professional look. And I got to tell you, the other side of that, I was very heartened to hear from these officers about how unprofessional they looked and how much they wanted that look back. And so that made me very happy to hear. And so it will be wash and wear. I'll probably start this out where they get 2 pairs of pants until I can get to the place where I can issue everybody the 4 that we have. There's some other changes with the uniforms going, Steve, also in the sense that the current manufacturer of the shirt, um, we can't get any more of those shirts that they have. So the Sat Team type shirts that they're wearing right now, I don't know if you've seen those or not, but there'll be a badge that's already embroidered on. So
Okay.
that'll be we'll wear the real badge on their Class A uniforms. We'll still have the original Class A's that we have, but we're going to go more towards that comfort look.
So everyone will shift to the embroidered badge.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So for day to day wear,
Yeah, yeah.
um,
What color shirt?
so that's the other problem is that my intent all along was to go with the color of pants that we have. And if you remember, I showed you some samples in my office
You showed me a
early
uniform
on.
that was the old, like our old winter dress
Yep.
shirt that
Yep.
was short sleeve and
Right.
the pant. And I've told people that combination looks good.
That's the
Good.
direction I'm still heading. And
Good.
so the problem is that color samples that I got coming in the door a couple of weeks ago, those 2 colors are like one of them was Ranger green
Uh,
that was supposed to, they're just horrible. So there's some variations I'm having to look at to get us to where we're at. I anticipate moving very rapidly through this process, and um, well, we're going to arrive at a much different uniform than we have today. And all I can tell you is look, I fully accept the responsibility for what we end up looking like right now, but I will also get us back to a place where we're proud of the uniform because it represents something to us all. And I have heard every comment, and I will tell you that I absolutely agree with all of those comments. Normally, I wear the uniform, as you well know, um, and my uniform looks like crap on me as well. And the worst part of that whole thing is for me is that so many people cared about how those uniforms looked that they spent a tremendous amount of their own money at their own tailor to get these things done. And the intent behind going to this pair of pants was that it was off the rack, ready to wear. And that is certainly not what I got.
yeah. So the 2 things that come to mind on what you said. So one is, you know, you and I know we've been on this agency where if a sheriff walked into a room, you didn't say a word to him. It's just how it was. Yeah, going back to Keller, even though he's a nice man, Jerry Keller and my father were good friends. I knew him from my home. But that was a sheriff. You didn't say nothing to him. Bill was a little different, but still, you were still kind of like battered spouse syndrome from the previous sheriff where you didn't talk. Sheriff Gillespie, same MO. Joe, very similar, right? But the troops like to be able to interact with their head of their agency and not be afraid to talk to him. So I think it's a testament to you that cops are comfortable enough to go, Sheriff, I would like to tell you these pants suck. Because
They're not
it's
shy about it
yeah,
right now
and
because they do.
that's important because then they have that it's not just the respect for you as the boss, but they also feel open enough to be able to have that conversation, not worry about you going, "What's his name?" Okay, yeah, I got him.
Yeah.
The second thing is you said 34, 34. 34, 34,
Yes, sir.
34,
That was just an example.
34 is a waist size. So yeah, I don't know if I was 34 when I was in second grade. So I'd love to see what those look like, those 34, 34s. I'm more of a 40, 23 type of short, fat guy. You guys haven't had those, so that's why I haven't gotten any new cans.
That's
Uh,
actually, to be honest with you, though, it's interesting you bring that up because, you know,
what, that I'm too fat for the
no, no,
pants?
no, no,
That's
no, no.
very interesting.
But might remember while I was a candidate, you and I had conversations that I really liked the 511 pants. I liked
Yeah,
the look of the 511. And obviously, as you go through this process, but was one of the interesting things that came out of that process is there's a number of manufacturers. We have a number of people on the organization that are much larger than even what you just described that you
thank you.
can't buy
Thank you.
an
Appreciate
off the shelf. Well,
that.
I mean, you're looking good these
Steve, there's
days, buddy.
actually some people bigger than you. Just so feel better about yourself. There's only six of them,
Let's
but
replay that because that is not what I said.
I know.
But there are a number of people that I could
Sure.
not put on an off the shelf pant, which
Yeah.
was and it's something I did not know.
Yeah.
So we had to, when even the manufacturers, when they put the samples in, they still had to go with that sort of expandable waistline,
Yeah.
which changes sometimes the way the pant looks. So
Yeah.
it's a interesting process. But I will say one last thing on that is I really don't like to go away that far from the traditional look. I think Metro is Metro. The uniforms that we wear, I like to be a bit beholden to tradition. And so the idea here is to get that darker color of winter type shirt with the lighter pants. That'll be our year round uniform. And I'm actively working with supply and our manufacturers right now. In fact, it's interesting you say that there's a kid that's coming into my office today, and he's been walking around with samples trying to get me to stop long enough between meetings to meet with him. So he's got some apparently, I'm sure, decent ideas about the direction he'd like to see us go with these uniforms. But that's how invested some of these folks are, and that's not a bad thing.
Um, we've had some people bring up the idea of what about contracting with business that instead of going to the uniform shop, that you just go to the business and you select your pants and maybe there's a couple different models or whatever, but the color's consistent. And you just do it that way, because that was one of the things too. You and I, we remember when Letty and Arturo and them were at the uniform shop. I don't think we have that anymore.
We do
Do we?
actually, yeah. So what we did was we took those positions, and they're not they're not a full-time employee of Metro now, they're a contracted position, so we avoid the salary and benefit piece. I'm
Uh-huh.
sorry, we avoid the retirement
Sure,
piece
sure,
of
sure.
that for these employees. So yes, we still have, I think it's 3 or 4 seamstresses down there. They do a great job. In fact, because of my mistake with these pants, they've been having to do sewing work that they weren't supposed to do,
Yeah,
just based on the fact that it comes off the shelf. But um, yeah, if officers need that, that's still open and available to them. Hopefully, we'll have that fixed here before too long, though.
nice, nice. Talking about the department, new drone program just rolled out.
Yeah.
How much assistance is that going to give to our cops out on the street?
I got to tell you, I'm really excited about this. As you know, we there's a lot of different ways to do this, and really, what the end of the day is, there's really not a general fund budget for this, and so Chief Gennaro had some relationships out in the community with some folks that are very invested in making sure that we don't become like some of these other cities in the United States when it comes to crime and homelessness and all of the other things. They want us to be like we talk about with our vision, the safest city in America. And so the idea that we have is that we want to envelop our city in these chronic hotspots with these technology bubbles. And so, as you already know, we do shot spotter and license plate reader and facial rec and all of the other things that we have when we have a
I don't mean to
case.
interrupt you, but do you know there's a lot of departments across the country that refuse to use facial recognition AI, like
Yeah.
Clearview AI, which
Oh
is a
yeah.
good program, and
It
they're like,
is.
you cannot use this. I'm like, it's so amazing because of some ideology. Oh, we shouldn't be tracking people. We shouldn't be doing this. And it's like, well, for us, it's a great tool. Clearview AI is specifically for law enforcement, and they tell them, yeah, you can't even use it. Don't even think about it.
But I'll tell
Sorry to
you,
get off
no, 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 no.
topic.
It's a really good point though, because the that is one of the concerns that you have to deal with all the time. The way that we utilize facial recognition, though, is that a crime has already been
For
committed,
sure.
and then we're bouncing the photos of the suspect off of our jail management systems, including those in California. You know, the LA County Sheriff's Department has the largest jail in the country, and everybody here in Southern Nevada and Southern California knows that our crooks trade places, right? So that's an extremely effective, and it's based on now. You also can't use that as sole probable cause,
No doubt.
nor would you expect them to. So we have a model program to utilize it. And so basically what happened is we already have a number of drone as first responders or DFRs that are outfitted today that are out there working. We also have SWAT drones, as you well know. But what just happened was we had a nearly $9 million donation to get drone in a box. So it's going to further expand our drone as a first responder program, but it's also going to take drones out into our 11 hotspot areas, pre-position them on businesses. When a shot spotter goes off, the GPS is going to go to that pre-positioned drone. The drone's going to launch overhead. It'll go back to the fusion center where we're actually working on reconfiguring the fusion center so we have a drone pilot station. So imagine this, for the first time ever, every single time a tone alert comes out, a shot spotter goes off, we're going to have a drone overhead within 30 seconds and real time intelligence from a detective, an officer, whoever's working back there at the real time crime center is going to be able to provide those cops on the ground with real information, not second and third hand information about what a suspect's doing, if there's a victim down, a direction of travel, what they're wearing, all of those kind of things. So it gives us this opportunity to slow down if need be, speed up if need be, um, bring additional resources to bear, whatever it is that we need to do. And at the end of the day, out of all of that, yes, it's true, we'll probably have less suspects die because of it. But most importantly to me, out of all of that, was that we have less cops that will ever be injured or have to suffer through the trauma. But I also want to make it very clear to the people that are out there committing crime. The other thing is you're going to have better informed cops that when they have to make the decision to take somebody's life, they're going to be more knowledgeable about what it is that they have to do, and less of us are going to get hurt in the process of doing it because of technology. And to me, that's a win-win, right? This ability to make sure that my cops get to go home to their families at night because we're better informed, we have better intelligence, we have better equipment, better tactics, and better leadership. Count me in all day, and that's exactly why I've been pushing for this. Is because the less that I ever have to have my officers injured, the better off that we are.
So what's the, if you know what I mean, put you on the spot. What's the average response time to the location of a shot spotter notification without drones? Police officer, shot spotter goes off. Do you know the average time it takes for us to get eyes on scene?
Approaches about 3 minutes.
And what is the anticipated eyes on to shot spotter notification with the drone flying?
Less than 30 seconds.
How amazing is that? 2.5 minutes. And we know 2.5 minutes. I mean, you can get to a freeway and the suspect could be gone in 2.5 minutes.
Easily.
And so the program, and as I've talked to cops about this, they're really excited for it because they listen. You talked about less injuries and things like that. They just want to catch bad guys.
Oh, yeah.
When people are victimizing folks in the community, they took this job to say, "I want to go get them." And so they always do get frustrated when they arrive. And what do they find? Shell casings and nothing else. Yeah, shot spotter went off. That was great, but it didn't really. It just told me it was here. And typically we'll get a call for service like that, right? So being able, so the program, if I'm following correctly, so we're going to have people manning these drones like from the fusion center.
In the real time crime center.
So it
Yep.
goes up to ShotSpotter, it gets in the area.
And
Is
then
it
we can take it over.
automatically sending itself? So the drone pilot doesn't have to say, "Oh, there's an alert. I got to launch it and go."
Exactly.
It goes on its own.
So GPS will come in that a shot spotter goes off. It'll go to whichever is the closest drone. The drone will go overhead. It'll start monitoring right away, and then the drone pilots at the real time crime center will be able to provide the real time intelligence. But here's the really cool part that if you haven't been to if our folks haven't seen the real time crime center, get down there because this thing is really amazing. What I'm really excited about is many of the same donors as well as a number of others. We're approaching 400 license plate readers that are out there in our community now. That's felony vehicles, that's stolen vehicles, that's hot hits on wanted subjects. So we're going to tie it into the LPR. So when an LPR goes off as well, we get the hit at the real time crime center. The drone will go overhead after we verified whatever we got to do. It'll go over and it'll be able to provide real time intelligence to the officers when they're responding on a stolen vehicle or when they're responding on a suspect wanted for homicide. or whatever it is, right? So even before the air unit has the capability of getting overhead, we'll have a drone overhead and monitoring the suspect vehicle and increase the apprehension infinitely.
At some point, drones overhead, it's eye in the scene. Can the drone pilots take it over? And so if they've got a vehicle leaving, they can stay with the car.
Yeah, so it's look,
And I don't know if I'm getting too like
no.
I'm
You're
thinking as a cop, like, hey,
yeah, of
that's
course.
great, it's there. But if my bad guys leave the scene in a vehicle, who the hell sees it now? It's
Yeah.
just hovering overhead.
So the answer is yes. That's why we're going to have 10 new
Nice.
positions for drone pilots here before too long. An entire build out of a video wall. It's really exciting, especially for guys like us who've been around forever. I don't know about you, but I still have trouble connecting my VCR or my Betamax,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call that
Yeah.
thing, right?
I
Um,
remember going to the movie stores, right? And you
yeah,
had to pick Fridays was the day, right? If you wanted it. And then what did young boys like us do? Come on, everyone can admit it. We went over to where the black curtains were,
hell yeah, there
and you
was a
took a
black
little
curtain.
peek behind the black curtains just to see what boxes were in there, and then you ran away when a worker came over. I got you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm still tracking.
I'm definitely not a technology guy, but what I do know, and we've talked about this before, is I have so many people that are passionate about this. You can't help but when you listen to them to be passionate about it. And so the idea right now is that drone pilots will be able to take it over. Um, but also at some point you'll use AI that enters into this, that you'll be able to put that drone on that car or
Yeah.
that suspect, and it'll autonomously follow that drone or that car or that suspect. So the pilot will have less and less to do, but provide information out to the responding officers that are coming in. And so there's some really neat advances. And the point of this is we're not out patrolling our neighborhoods with drones. We're not out looking for bad. Just the same as if it's the response to a
Sure.
shooting or a felony subject, a felony stolen vehicle. That's when we're utilizing these things. It's to increase in the apprehension and reduce the amount of people that are being injured because of it. Period. And when I talk to older folks like ourselves in this job, we all we ever did was you got a tone alert, you'd reach down, turn the lights and siren on, and you'd haul ass to get there to try to get the bad guy or save the victim, right? They're still doing the same things. Now they're just going to be far better equipped today than they ever were. And there's some really interesting pieces of this too when you talk about the vans that are going out. So we have a foot pursuit that starts to happen. We'll have that DFR that's out in the field already. They'll launch from a couple blocks away, go up, look around for the subject who's running from the cops, and they'll be able to again provide real time intelligence before the air unit gets overhead. It's a really exciting time in our industry because um, we're slow to embrace technology a lot of times because I think both of you and I are of the mindset that cops matter and that human being behind that badge really matters a lot. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this intersection happens and how we take advantage of technology to keep our community safer.
Do you foresee in the future that the drone program could overtake the air unit and the only need for the air unit is search and rescue?
You know,
Not
certainly
knocking
not
the
in
air
my
unit guys.
lifetime. I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Really? In your lifetime?
I don't think
You're not
so.
gonna die anytime soon.
God will, and no.
Talking
So
about it,
maybe my career time.
what's the difference, right? What's the difference between the drone going up and me manning it from a distance? I'm sure the drone costs far. How many drones could you buy for one bird?
I, for one bird, how many could I buy? Well, it's about 50.
Okay, so you for one air unit, you could, and you don't have oil maintenance and all that stuff, right? And if all it's doing is launching, getting eyes on, which is what our air unit guys do, and our air unit guys do a great job, but they're calling things out and things like that, right? But it's because they have eyes on and they're over. If a drone could do the same and the person could hop onto the radio channel and start giving the same traffic from the drone, does it make sense in the future that that is a way to go?
Look, I think you're right. I think at some point or another, this technology is going to be. It already is a game changer, but it's going to change. The one caveat, and the reason that I say that is that I don't think Americans are still ready for
Sure.
Big Brother. I got to tell you, heard me probably talking about red light cameras and
Yeah,
speed
not a
cameras, and
fan.
I'm sure you're not a fan. But
Not because of the intent, but because
yeah,
of what you just said.
no,
Yeah,
exactly. But
yeah,
in the meantime, you have these fast cameras that are out there observing every single day where you're driving anyway, right? It's
yeah.
already in existence. And
I don't
so,
like them either.
but to your point, you still don't like them.
Yeah.
But that's because we're Americans and we don't like the intrusion on
For
our
sure.
civil liberties and behaviors. And so I think that when you talk about a widespread drone deployment capability like the air unit has, I don't think that we're ready for that in America. And I'm certainly not ready for that as the sheriff. I don't want to have drones all over the place paying attention to what we're doing, but I do want the drones to respond when we have acts of violence in our community. And so, to me, that's a very fine line between, um, the future and now. Now, will that line blur
Sure.
as it gets as the years go on? Absolutely, because if you look at how far technology has come in the short last 20 years, it wasn't that long ago we were all still utilizing landlines at home. So and now you probably don't even know anybody except me that still has a landline,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Nobody has them anymore. So that's a good example of it. I personally I have a real heartache with the deployment of those things for other than criminal activity.
Sure. Sure. That's interesting. Very interesting stuff. Yeah, definitely a big shout out to Mike Gennaro because this is a program that probably wouldn't have gotten off the ground without outside funding, right?
Without it,
Yeah.
no way, no chance. And they're just amazing people and Mike's done just a fantastic job of working that through.
I had lunch with him last week, and when we talked about it, it's so funny because kind of like you, he just gets ear to ear. And I never fashioned Mike as a technology guy, but
Me either.
as he started talking and he started talking about how it works and that, you just see him light up. And it's like, listen, this will be a game changer for cops, for boots on the ground,
Yeah,
to get something overhead quickly, to give them live intel. Of course, like you said, we want to get to a scene and make sure we can render aid to victims and uh, talk to witnesses. But first goal is to grab the bad guy, right? And so this may keep three cops from going directly to the scene, which is what we always did, right? We never looked in the ancillary, we went right to where it was. And so typically they're leaving. And so having this up there to give them hey, don't go there. I need a couple to go get this guy. He's westbound on Summerlin Parkway. It's going to be huge.
I mean, the apprehension part of it to me is a no-brainer. Um, that part is just, I mean, it's gonna really literally change the
Yeah,
game. But also, when you pause long enough to think beyond that piece of it, the safety of our officers is gonna increase substantially. And what where it's gonna be fun to watch, I think, at least from our two purchases, how does the policy change? How does the response protocol change? How does the leadership and supervision change and adapt to the technology and to utilize it the most effectively? And the truth is we're gonna learn from the bottom up on this. The people that are out there utilizing the technology are gonna tell us how to most effectively policize the use of these drones. And it's important that we in the leadership positions actually listen to what they tell us to
sure.
be the most effective.
Will it also have the ability to feed the visual to a supervisor, somebody who's actually down there to go, oh no, I'm seeing it, or even the officers on their are they still called MDTs?
I don't know what they
Or their
call
tablets or their car computer?
them.
I don't know.
See, and I call them MCTs. That was even the predecessor to MDTs. But
I listen, I just remember
yeah, the
3
40
pages, that's
character.
all you get. Yeah, yeah, these kids would lose their minds if they had to drive with that.
So that's a great
Did you
question.
ever have a patrol car with the computer on the floor?
Oh yeah, the old whale,
The
the
Chevy, yeah,
Chevys.
the
Oh yeah,
Caprices.
you're looking
Yeah.
down like this. Yeah,
What an absolute mess that would be
and that was a
nowadays.
powerful car too.
Oh, yeah,
The
Corvette
car,
engine.
yeah, the
Yeah,
Corvette
couldn't
engine.
turn to save its life, but flatline speed, 120,
Easy.
no problem.
Yeah,
Not that we did that,
never.
but the rumor was that it was capable of such
Yeah.
things.
That part of the technology, Steve, I haven't talked a whole lot about that. Your ability as a supervisor, a sergeant, officer to watch it on your tablet or your phone. Um, and the reason I haven't done that is I've been promised that with the helicopter downlink 1,000 times. It still hasn't
Sure.
worked. This technology tells me that I can do that, but I haven't seen an effective demonstration of it yet. And I think that that's still, um, I think the way that they're looking at doing it now is rather than feeding it to different devices, it'll feed it to a spot where you can log into the spot and see the same video that everybody else sees.
Gotcha.
So it's an interesting twist on the way to do it. I haven't personally seen that done. I've seen the demos of it, but until I see it go live, I'm not promising that's going to
Sure.
happen because as quick as technology is advancing, there's also a lot of limitations on the ability to receive information just because of the size of the pipe coming into the organization and the data that can flow back and forth required for video has been a tremendous challenge for us.
Nice, nice. No, cool stuff coming on the horizon for our department. Now, big thing we got right here, middle of the table. We got our football helmet. The big game is coming up. This is being recorded. Will this go out before the game? Well, okay. Well, here let's try and get. I want to see if you can get in on some. Uh, an amazing artist for our department created something for the game. He felt compelled to really let the firemen know where they stand with their brothers and sisters at Metro and how things will be perceived. So I don't know if you can zoom in on this, JD, but this is a little reminder that okay, I'll text it to you. It's a little reminder that the police are still the big brother or sister, and we've got our little baby firemen out there, and it says they're there. It will be okay. We've got some more coming, but it's a fun rivalry. We picked it back up from '83 was the last time the game was played. The first 2 years very successful. Year one, we beat the brakes off of those guys. Year two, I made it clear to the news that I told our team to throw the game. It was intentional. They really felt proud of themselves. They were invigorated. They were so proud of how they played. And the truth is even at halftime, I went into the locker room and said, "Listen, we shouldn't have even scored in the first half. I didn't want that." And so they knew that, and we backed off, and we gave those guys a win, and we wanted to guarantee a year three game. Um, what do you think is going to happen this year, Sheriff? What do you think about your guys, your team, and what's going to take place the 11th at Bishop Gorman?
Yeah, so one of the things I have to say about that though is that it's always fun to come out there to that event because I get to see a whole different side of you that I don't normally. You're like the head coach that's up there pacing the sidelines, and you don't have even. I try to talk to you for like 2 seconds. You're like, I'm in the middle of the game and leave me alone. And I see this
I don't
passion
know if
in
that's
this.
accurate,
That's
Adela.
absolutely
Okay,
accurate,
maybe it
Adele.
is.
You can tell
Maybe
them
it
the
is.
truth.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
joking.
it's funny to watch that competitive nature come out in you because I have the same thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
look, I number one, I'm glad that we're doing this, right? Because it's really a look. You look at what happens in other cities with police and fire. They don't really get along. They don't like each other. They don't work together. Our events, whether you're talking about UNLV or 1 October or the City National shooting, it doesn't matter. We train together, we bleed together, we work together, and this rivalry comes together. Look, they get a lot more time to train. We know
No
because we're
doubt.
busy all the time.
No doubt.
And they don't.
Yeah.
So working out at the ping pong table and all
Yep.
the things that happen there. They just get a little more time on their hands. And so, but I fully expect that speech that you provide to them is no quarter. This year, it's only victory and no other opportunity for firefighters to claim superiority over the police. And so, we're gonna have to adjust our tactics there and what you're telling them at halftime, and no mercy this year, buddy.
So I'm not going to put the captain over at a certain um, station or whatever. I've known this guy since high school. But just to kind of put in perspective, who we are and who they are. You said about they get to train a lot. A lot of times they wait for us, and they don't go do a lot of things. In my opinion, when I was working the streets, there'd be someone needing help, and they would wait because they need us to show up first. And so this person even sent me a message as recently as February. Steve, no joking. Uh, please, we are still not getting Metro support. We've had 3 calls where guys asking for Metro then got in fights. Can you guys please help us? That's a I won't show you, but it is a captain uh, sending me the police union president a message about, hey, we're scared, we're nervous, we're not built for this. We work out a lot, we do nice calendar shoots, but this isn't for us. Like bring in the guy with the 48 waist that will still risk himself and go handle a bad guy. So um, to what you said, we're taking this game. We are taking it very seriously. We are very proud of our counterparts in fire and what we do at work. But what they need to know, and what I hope the chiefs over the city and the county in North Las Vegas understand is that there's a real chance they're going to have workers not coming back to work for a while. Our head coach Ramon Willis and the SWAT team, former Baltimore Raven, This is not a fun shake hands game anymore for him. There's some serious intentions going to happen, and if people on their side get hurt, my guys don't care. And so it's going to be a different game this year. It's going to be um, literal chaos. And I just want you to know that if fights break out, listen, they're all off duty, and so it's just accidental. We'll make sure no one wants to press charge, but it's a game people should not miss. But let's roll back to
So wait, May 11th at what time?
7 o'clock, Bishop Gorman High School. Thank you. Big shout out to Bishop Gorman and the folks there. They've been amazing. Their staff is just so awesome with us. They give us carte blanche to everything there. We have a VIP area upstairs where you can have a VIP ticket, open bar, all the food you can eat, snacks, popcorn, hot dogs, candy for the kids. You got a swag bag, a little mini helmet, lanyard, phone charger. Like we're really trying to really
Yeah,
step
that's
this
why
thing up.
I wanted to bring it up. You know, I've been there the last couple years, and as I've already mentioned to you, I'm not going to be able to make it this year as I'm out of town. But I would highly encourage anybody listening to show up to this thing because it's a great time. You guys put on a great event. The food is fantastic. In fact, I think I walked in and heard you guys talking about what the food was going to be
Yes,
this year,
yes, yes.
and I'm sorry I'm going to miss it, but it really is a good time, and it's a time to let off a little bit of steam. We get a lot of people to show up and come out and support the men and women of the police and fire, and they'll sure appreciate it. It's a great time.
And I know I know you wanted to be at the game, but this goes back to what we talked about, right? Like, listen, Metro's a family, that's true, but we all have our families and families first. And your young ones are graduating, right?
Yep, my twins are graduating
Uh,
this year. I can't miss out
I can
on
tell
those
you if
festivities.
I'm the person that puts the game on, but if the game was on the day of my daughter's graduation, thankfully hers is at the end of the month, I wouldn't be there either.
Yeah.
And our cops need to know that. Like our work family, our work lives, to what you said, this place will still go on. But the memories that you could take from your family, those are lasting, whether they're
Absolutely.
good or bad,
Yeah,
they're
you're right.
lasting, and you don't
They
want to
sure are, aren't they?
you don't want to be that mother or father that, when the kid grows up goes, you were never here.
Yeah.
So, it's good that you take time. We want you at the game, but I'd rather you be there more than being at the game.
Yeah,
You
I'm
be there.
sorry to miss it, but come on out, check it out.
Yeah, and for all of our Metro employees, he's authorized time off, shift adjust days, anything you need. But seriously, and I'm going to talk to our members here, and you know, if you're off and you're with your family and May 11th is coming and you don't have anything to do that is absolutely pressing, come support your freaking coworkers. These guys are going out there representing our badge, our department to go against the firemen. You go to New York, they put 10, 15,000 people in a stadium to watch that game. We could fill that stadium with just our employees alone that are off. And so please, please, I'm going to do another video going out to our membership. Get to the freaking game. Go support even if you don't like football, get out there. You're supporting the cause. The cause is our charities. The cause is your coworkers taking on the hose draggers that ran their mouth since they won last year, right? So if you're
Well,
there,
Steve, think
go.
about this too, right? The charities that you're talking about are supporting the children of your membership,
That's
right?
it.
So, I mean, it's a win-win-win all the way around, and same for if I remember, it's the on the firefighter side,
The
it's
Burn
supporting the Burn
Foundation. Yep.
Foundation. So it's all for a great cause. A little bit of time to celebrate one another and that camaraderie, and I would highly encourage everybody to get out there too. And you're going to be surprised, but you're going to have a great time. I sure have the last couple of years.
One of the cool things we're doing this year is we're inviting the high schools. If the high school comes out in their in their jerseys with 40 people plus their head coach at halftime, we're going to raffle off a $5,000
Wow,
donation to the school that we pull. And so,
wow,
yeah, so just trying to do a little bit more for the community. And so we've had plenty of people that said, "Well, we'll be there. We'll be there," because we know there's a lot of lower income high schools that could use a
sure,
$5,000 donation. So, yeah, it should be pretty interesting. Should be pretty fun. Yeah.
awesome.
Well, listen, did I hit everything? I was gonna check. I don't wanna, this is a sheriff, for goodness sakes. Like, this is like I said, he said I was joking. I'm not joking. I have to get on a knee when I make the phone call, and it's a FaceTime call, and then we come off FaceTime and we can talk. I know my role. I get it. But no, Kevin, really appreciate you being on here, brother. Yeah, very busy this time of year, coming into summer, coming into EDC, coming into our kids' graduations. Just a lot of stuff going on. Love to have you back on maybe this time next year and see where. Oh, one question I forgot to ask. Are you going to run for a second term as sheriff?
That's a great question.
Right, and maybe we'll find that out in a year from now, if we're looking at donating to the campaign.
I'll answer that seriously though.
Sure.
I get asked that question a lot, Steve, I'm what 16 months into this thing. I'm not even looking at reelection right now because that's what makes you a politician, right? I've got a long time to go before I make that decision, and in between now and then, I just want to do as good of a job as I can for the men and women of this organization. And one thing that we didn't talk about, if you don't mind, just I'd like to bring this up is I honestly believe that the men and women of Metro deserve to be the highest compensated in this valley. And we went through this process before I got elected and about supporting longevity coming back and new pants. And I fully expect that when you all ask me, what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it is I gotta when I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And the one thing I would say to you is that I think I've lived up to that promise. But at the second part of that is we got to also find ways to make sure that there's nobody else better compensated in this valley than the men and women of Metro. And as we continue to have discussions about what that looks like, I think that's an important piece of this because nobody does it like they do. Let me just give you this example. I think it was called Sick New World over the weekend
Mhm.
at the circus field up
Circus
there.
Fairgrounds, yeah.
65,000 people, multiple days came and went, no incidents.
Sure.
In the meantime, they're dealing with homicides and shootings and all the other things, and there's nobody in the valley that's doing what these men and women are doing. And so I'm committing here publicly to you and in front of our men and women that I believe that we need to find ways to make sure that we can follow through on that, and that's very important to me.
So who's the roadblocks to that, though? I mean, listen, you're not in the negotiation sessions. We are, and we get nothing but roadblocks. We get it from folks on your own side.
Yeah,
Jamie Frost is a roadblock. The county, the city are roadblocks to that. We walk in saying LVMPD should be the absolute highest, and we get back, well, and so it's great to hear you say that, but then when we get into those conversations, that doesn't materialize. And you and I know I've talked to you like, hey
yeah.
man, I don't know what the hell's going on here, but we're getting nothing but pushback.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
I think some of it, as you well know, is you have to go step by step,
sure,
right? And you remember that when we started talking about what this looks like to get that longevity piece and what you call it and all that, and there was a whole lot of people that said we weren't going to get there,
sure,
and we did. And so, but what I'm saying by publicly saying that today is that it would be easy for me to say nothing and let this interview end, but I believe it in my heart
yeah, yeah.
that these men and women deserve that. And so I think we will continue to work together to find that next step and that next step to get us to that place. But there's nobody in the valley in law enforcement doing what the men and women of Metro do. And I think that's the mantra that we have to have moving forward to make sure that they are the best compensated as well.
Well, I'm gonna say something here too that I really took issue with when Joe was a sheriff, and now you as a sheriff. For those that may not be aware, and this isn't just a us thing, a PO CO thing. Uh, you are the, I believe, lowest compensated head of an agency in the state. Am I fairly correct on that? There may be a couple outliers, but your salary is set by the legislature.
It is.
A chief of police in Henderson or City of Las Vegas, the councils can decide what they want to pay those folks, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I learned this with Joe that as a guy that wants to always bargain for fair compensation for people, when I look at departments across the country that are nowhere near our size, nowhere near our request or need for service, with the events that we do on top of our 2.1 million or whatever population we have here, that I tried to introduce a bill, I think 2 sessions ago, to get it carried that the sheriff's compensation needs to increase. And again, there's no bearing on my men and women, but what's fair is fair. And so you don't say, I'm the head of one of the largest agencies in the country. And for those that may not be aware, we are. Um, and you say, hey, you're going to be paid as one of the absolute lowest. And the legislature has control over that. And, I plan on, I've talked to my political guy, John Abel, already saying, I want to bring it back, because it doesn't matter if it's you. It doesn't matter who the next person is. It's just not right, when you look at it. And, that goes across the board with our officers, with you and that. It's kind of an odd thing for me to see that the sheriff of Clark County, who's been on the news, who's known worldwide, really, right? Qatar, you guys are working with folks in Canada and Qatar and trying to really bring a full scope and spectrum of what everyone across the world is going through. And our head of the agency is not poorly compensated, but when you compare it to others, I believe it is.
Interesting. I appreciate you saying that. The other side of that too, and for me, I'm willing to forgo it for me as the sheriff. But I want to say this because it's important. Is at some point or another, the type of people that are going to be attracted to this job for being compensated at what a lieutenant gets compensated at Metro is going to decline. And, you know, I just think that it's really important that we continue to get people that give a damn about this police department. And I mean, arguably every one of those sheriffs ahead of me, certainly, whether you agree or you don't agree, I saw that they all care. And I just think it's important that this doesn't become about me because it shouldn't be about me because I did take the job knowing what I make. But the reality of it is that at some point or another, they need to change the structure of that pay. There's no way that the marshal services should be paid more than the sheriff, or the city chiefs should be paid more than the sheriff. Not when we have the complexity and the challenges that we have in this organization. If we want to be the best, we got to start to look at whoever's in that position deserves to be fairly compensated. Much like I'm talking about our cops.
No doubt.
They deserve the best, and I'm going to continue to fight for
And
them
that's
for
how we
that.
got on the topic. And for me, like you said, it wasn't a you thing because I was doing this. You were retired actually when I did that at the legislature where Joe was still here. When it was brought to my attention, I'm like, it just doesn't make sense. Again, the union, we bargain for fair compensation. If we're the biggest and best police department, we should be the top people, right? And so I can't also say, well, my sheriff he should only be making, like you said, what a lieutenant makes. Well, what's the point of that? Like that can't be right. And so, but back to reelection. I know you said you're not a politician, you're not looking at reelection, all that. How's the war chest look?
I still have a few dollars left over.
Couple bucks.
If I decide to,
Look at
I
that smile.
decide to.
See, that's what you talk to people. You go, hey, what's the war chest? And when they go, oh, well, they're not doing well. When it's, I got a couple bucks. He's, he's doing all right, right?
I certainly have a head start if I choose to do it again. Let's say it like that.
Well, I love it. For anyone wanting to maybe challenge them, just know that war chest is it's up there. Good luck to you. Good luck to you. No, I appreciate you being on the show,
Thank you.
brother. This was a great time. I had probably more fun than I thought I was going to have. But no, it's good to have you here. We're very happy to have you as our boss and leader of the agency. And anything we can do for you, you just let us know. We'd love to have you back. Maybe, like I said, in a year, and
Yeah.
See where we're at in 2.5 years.
Well, thanks to you also, you and your team for fighting for the men and women of Metro because they deserve that advocacy and that it's good that we have that in common, that we give a damn about these people because they deserve every single thing we can possibly get for them. So thank you and your team as well.
And for those that don't know or don't remember, new employees, you were a board member of the PPA long ago,
Sure
right?
was. Sure was.
So
Yep.
so you've got a leader of the agency that was actually a part of as an advocate, boots on the ground, trying to do better for the troops. And now as he's ascended, listen, I can tell you, it doesn't matter what interactions people have with other people. I can tell you my interactions with this guy are always positive, and it's always about trying to do stuff for our folks. So thank you for being on the show, brother.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate you. In closing, I'll just go ahead and close out now. Listen, I know we haven't done a podcast in a little while, but we'll pick those up here and start getting them out as long as we got good guests like the sheriff or good topics to talk about. So if you have stuff, you have the email that you could send us an email to our followers in Italy and India and Mexico and all over the place. 8.2 million of you that are following along. We thank you. If you have anything as a citizen that you'd like us to talk about or bring someone on the show, send it to us. We'll bring them on and discuss things that you may have questions about. So till the next one, please come out to the game. May 11th, 7 o'clock. The gates open at 6. You can tailgate in the parking lot if you want. It's not a CCSD school, so you can have an adult beverage if you like. The VIP tickets are still for sale. We're running out of room up there, so if you're considering doing it, that is the primo spot and place to be. So come out to the game, support your cops, support your firemen, support your cops more, and the firemen will lose, and it'll be a great time. So till our next show, thank you all very much, and we'll see you on the next one.
111, 110.